It all started here. As a senior in high school, I was asked to discover my family history, and I spoke to my great aunt where I found this photograph of my great-great-grandfather with his wife sitting at his side, along with their 4 children. My great-great-grandfather had died in Russia defending the Jewish section of his village during a pogrom around 1906, leaving his family no choice but to go to the United States. As I discovered more of the story, many fascinating characters were revealed to me. My great-grandfather, the pudgy boy in the funny hat, quit his job as a New York City public school teacher to pursue a successful career winning sweepstakes and contests all over New York City. But his sister, the only female of her generation, became a doctor in the days before women became doctors. This is a story I wanted to uncover. My great-great-grandmother Bertha, a new widow, was faced with the only opportunity she could think of. So she left Kiev to partake in the grueling trip to Liverpool, England, with her 4 children. They boarded the SS Nordland on August 19, 2008. The trip took 12 days by boat, and while they enjoyed relative luxuries in Russia, the family had sold nearly all they could to obtain the 5 steerage tickets that would take them to the United States, along with 500 other people. They arrived at the port of Philadelphia on August 31st, 1908. It was a crowded port on a hot and sunny day. A relative, Max Weinstein, vouched for the family upon their arrival, and almost immediately they headed for New York. Like most Russian Jewish immigrants at the time, they settled into tenement life in the Lower East Side of Manhattan. This part of the family history is a bit hazy. The Lower East Side was completely overcrowded as immigrants from Eastern Europe poured in. My great-grandfather William and his younger brother Louis are listed as inmates of the Hebrew Orphan Asylum according to the 1910 census. I can only assume that my great-great-grandmother was not able to afford to have the 2 boys around the house. Samuel, Bertha's oldest son, had the new role of man of the house. I have no idea what he was doing to help the family, or even if he had contact with his 2 younger brothers. All I know is that he fell ill and died along with the hundreds of thousands of other New Yorkers during the great influenza epidemic that struck in 1918 and 1919. This must have been an incredible burden on Elizabeth. With all of her siblings out of reach, her mother was working as a midwife, no doubt helping the plethora of immigrant women with no access to birth control have baby after baby after baby. The tenements were filthy, and while I don't have evidence, I would imagine that she helped her mother's business like so many other children at that time. I'm sure this had a tremendous effect on her. In 1919, the same year that Elizabeth's older brother Samuel died of influenza, her mother Bertha was arrested for attempted abortion, according to New York City municipal records. I have no idea what attempted abortion means, but I suspect that she felt the need to take action in order to respond to the fact that so many women had no control over their conception. It is clear that Bertha was a role model for Elizabeth. My grandfather informed me that both Elizabeth and her mother Bertha were attending rallies to support women's suffrage. I'm sure that Bertha's career in the medical profession, as an active and defiant woman in a man's world, gave her daughter a true sense of empowerment. Elizabeth became a true academic. After completing high school, she attended the University of Vermont's medical school, completing her medical degree only 6 years after the first woman graduated from the program. She was one of 3 women in her graduating class. This is a marvelous achievement, considering that she became a medical doctor only 1 decade after women were given the right to vote in the United States. I was told she was very proactive and vocal about her opinions. This must have been an important trait as she entered a male-dominated workforce. In 1944, Elizabeth is mentioned in an article published by the Journal of the American Medical Association entitled Medicine and the War. In the article, filled with achievements of her male counterparts, she is referenced in a humble paragraph on the lower right side of the page. She was living in Long Island City, Queens, and by this time she was the first woman to join the Queens Medical Society. The article discusses that she joined the SPARS as a medical officer. I had never heard of the SPARS. It turns out that the SPARS was one of many military units run by women on the home front during the war effort in the spirit of Rosie the Riveter.
Vital jobs done by women so that men may fight.
That's why you join the SPARS. Basic training doesn't take long, only a month, and your pay begins at once. You learn to take orders and to carry them out. You acquire new vigor, new confidence. You learn to march with others and to work with others. And you learn, too, that to do your best is the proud tradition of the Coast Guard.
Her time in the SPARS ended with the war, when she was stationed in Long Beach, California. True to her feminist roots, she never married, though my grandfather strongly suspected that she may have been gay. At this point, the paper trail ends with the SPARS, as I have not been able to track her until her death in 1998. After 10 years of genealogical research and rumors about a connection to Margaret Sanger's Birth Control Clinical Research Bureau, all I have been able to find about this connection is a brief listing as a staff doctor in a New York University webpage for the Margaret Sanger papers. Either way, the process of discovering Elizabeth Sunner's story has not only been a personal journey, but an unexpected way to connect my family's history to the history of the United States and the feminist movement. Elizabeth and her mother paved the way for the second wave of the women's rights movement in the 1960s and 1970s, and for contemporary political leaders. The freedom and equality that I enjoy in 2010 is in part due to the fearlessness of the women who came before me.